Hey, what's up, everybody? Again, doing my little Bible study. Didn't get to work today, so it's just another one of those days. I've been watching TV and just trying to read as much of my word. And just going to dive right into this. Everybody's probably read or heard of, where Jesus called Simon and Andrew to be disciples or whatever. And I'm going to be reading out of Luke 5. I'm just going to start off at verse 1 and just kind of break it down as I go. Like, man, I can't get out of Luke for some reason. It's so good, but just it kind of this message, I guess, just kind of hit me just a while ago reading this. Anyway, Luke 5 verse 1. So it was, as the multitude pressed about him to hear the word of God, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, however you want to say it, and saw two boats standing by the lake. But the fishermen had gone from them and were washing their nets. Then he got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little bit from the land, and he sat down and taught the multitudes from the boat. All right, I'm going to stop right here. For one, the two fishermen were Simon and Andrew. It was Peter and Andrew. They were brothers. And it says here they were washing their nets. Like, the Bible puts stuff in there on purpose. Like, there's a reason why this story says they were washing their nets. Okay, for anybody who fishes around here or this day and age, we know that it's not fishing today is not the same as it was almost 2,000 years ago when the story took place. All right, they didn't just go out there, back their boat down the ramp, and go out there and fish for 3 or 4 hours with their ice chests and waters and Gatorades and the little Debbie's and stuff like that, and casting out, reeling in, take a fish off, and do it again. It wasn't nothing like that. They really, like, they wasn't out there fishing just because they were trying to get away from their wives and their mother-in-law and all that. This is how they lived. This was their income. This is their way of living. That's what they did for a living, was fish. And it says they had fished, and a little bit later you're going to see they fished all night long, okay? All night long. And I'm talking about hard labor, throwing nets out. The reason why it says they were washing their nets is because back then, whenever the people got done fishing, they would come in getting ready to go home. They've been fishing for 8, 10, probably 12 hours. And it was hard work. And they would clean their nets, which would take a good minute. And it's not like they just folded it up and put it in their backpack and left. It was an ordeal. It was a job. And they were washing their nets. They had been working all night long, okay? Ain't caught nothing. They ain't even got a mosquito bite, much less a fish bite. They ain't caught nothing. Jesus is already there preaching, okay? These two fishermen weren't even part of Jesus already teaching. They were coming in from work, washing their nets up. Jesus comes to them after they had already fished all night long, after they were cleaning up. It's kind of like for people who work in a restaurant. All right, your restaurant closes at 9 o'clock. You've been working, you pulled a double. All right, you worked all day. You just got finished cleaning the kitchen, sweeping, mopping, whatever you had to do, all your side work and all this. So everything's done. And at 9:05, somebody comes in the door and the hostess seats them. Pretty much the same. You get the gist, okay? Jesus was the 9:05 guy. Jesus came in at 5 minutes after closing time, after the waitresses and the cooks and everything have done cleaned the kitchen, ready to go home because they've been working all night, all right? Think of how you would react. This was a stranger, like some stranger walks into your job and tells you, hey, I want to sit at this table and I want you to go cook and get everything back dirty again, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, back to scripture, okay? To me, that was a huge point. All right. He sat down and taught the multitudes from the boat. Verse 4. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch. Simon Peter was a professional fisherman. That's what he'd done, okay? He'd done this all the time. He had been doing it all night. Well, then this guy who already done came made him get back out into the lake, back out onto the sea. Now he's trying to tell him, go out there and throw down your net? Bruh. This is what Peter tells him. But Simon answered and said to him, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Get this. Nevertheless, at your word, because you say so, I will let down the net. Me and my daddy just talked about this. Weird. And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled for their partners of the boat to come help. And they came and filled both sides of the boat. Okay, anyway, when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. Well, okay, so there's so much into this whole thing that I could say, but try to stick to the point. Simon Peter had been fishing all night long. Jesus came in as he was getting ready to go home, wanted him to go out back into the lake. You know, he's already tired, wanting to go home. His wife's probably texting him, wanting to know where you at, you know. And then he said, I'm going to preach. I'd be like, bro, like, how long is this message going to be? I hope you don't preach long. Like, you already been preaching. Now you're going to come preach some more. So, you know, I got places to be. But instead, Peter, nevertheless, because you said so, Jesus, I'll go out there and I'll let down my net. Like, dude, I know what I'm doing. I'm a fisherman. I'm a professional fisherman. Yeah, I might not have caught nothing, but the fish ain't moving. That's what it is. But I'll go out there anyway. And because of Peter's obedience, even though he was tired, even though he's been working all night long, even though the man ain't caught a single fish, even though he was already packing up, getting ready to go home, he said, okay, get in the boat, let's go preach. I have a gnat flying around here. Then Jesus even went even further and told him to go back out and throw his nets out again. And he did. And look what happened. He witnessed a miracle. And if you go back and actually do some studying on it, it ended up, they caught so many fish that it was like 6 months worth of pay, or 6 months worth of their salary, or whatever. It was a 6 month salary is what they caught, roughly. Had Peter said, dude, I'm tired, I've been working all night, even though you're calling me, I'm not going, Jesus. I hear you. I hear you calling me. All right. There's some of me, I'm speaking of myself, me and some of us out there have heard Jesus calling, but we've been fighting the same fight. Our marriage has been going through the same crap over and over and over again. We know that we should be turning to Jesus. We hear Jesus calling in the middle of our marriage falling apart. But instead of listening to him, we go back and listen to our own self, and I'm going to fix it myself. We're in the middle of a financial crisis. We know that we need to, Jesus is calling, hey, do this, fast, hey, do this, give. We know which way to go, but instead, even though we hear Jesus calling, we're tired of fighting the same financial battle. We're tired of fighting the same marital battle. We're tired of fighting the same addiction, whatever your addiction is. We're tired of fighting that, so we ignore the calling of Jesus. And who's to say that, like Peter, that one call right then, if we would have answered Jesus right then, had I answered Jesus and listened to him and what the word says about my marriage, maybe it would have been the biggest miracle that my marriage has ever seen. Maybe if you would have stuck with the word and fought one more time and answered one more call, you might have just got the biggest financial blessing you've ever seen in your life and paid off that bill, or bought that car, or paid that house off, or whatever debt that you owed. Maybe this one call was what got you completely drug free. You threw those cigarettes down finally. You've been fighting that cigarette addiction for the last 20 years, and you go to church and you read the Bible and all this, but you're just tired. You're tired of trying and get tempted and you fall away and you just give up. Had Peter not have answered Jesus, if he would have said, "Nah, dude, I'm tired. I've been working all night. I don't have time, man. Like, I love your preaching. That's awesome, but I don't have time to answer that call. My wife is at home." He could have easily said that. Very excusable, that we think is very excusable excuses. Like, he's tired. He's been working all night. My nets are clean. Like, bro, I'm going home. And then Jesus carried it even farther, like he always does, and told him, "By the way, since you let me come out here and you're tired and you let me preach my message to these people, for your obedience, throw your net out here. Even though I know you've been working all night and you ain't caught a fish, watch this." Like, look at what Peter would have missed out on had he not answered Jesus's call. Man, like, that is so, and you can dive even more into these 15 scriptures right here on this whole little passage. And there's just so much more. I'm not even going to get into the fact that Jesus told him to put down his nets, and Peter put down his net. Daddy, I know you're watching, and you told me I could use that, so you pointed that out. That's a whole nother message in itself. But if we get so busy and so tired of fighting the good fight that we don't answer Jesus's call, we could be missing out on one of the biggest miracles of our life, of our marriage, for our finances, for our addiction, for our stress, anxiety, those suicidal thoughts, whatever it is. If you hear Jesus calling, it doesn't matter what it is. The answer is always yes. You tell him yes. If he tells you to do this, if he tells you to pray for somebody, it's yes. If he tells you to give your last $2, you give. Look at the lady with the 2 mites. That's all she gave. Like, there's so many things we could be missing out on because we give excuses. Excusable excuses that we think could completely rob our blessing and change our destiny. Hopefully this is for somebody. That was in Luke, I think it was 5. I have it wrote down. For anybody who wants to go read it. Yeah, Luke 5. Go read that whole passage and then read it again, then read it again. You'll get so much out of it. I love you guys. Hope this has encouraged somebody. Hope you have a good night.